Good evening, Vickie Syage, resident of Carlsbad, 92011. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I come here tonight disappointed and embarrassed by the way my city represented itself at last week's Coastal Commission hearings on the changes to the local coastal plan. You see, the city intentionally deceived the Coastal Commission in its applications and in its speeches. The city represented that it was changing the land use naming from travel recreation to visitor commercial. The memo's right here. To make the local coastal plan and general plan consistent in naming conventions. The city maintained that this change was merely semantic, quote, or with no substantive difference in definition, end quote. And that was completely and utterly false. You see, there are very substantial differences between travel recreation and visitor commercial. Led by Corey Schumacher, a group of citizens discovered that the visitor commercial designation included a residential component and that travel recreation did not. Corey organized a letter writing campaign to the Coastal Commission, and the Coastal Commission staff agreed. The staff recommended against the residential addition, and then the city quietly pulled the change. But the intention misrepresentation continued. The visitor commercial designation contained components for regional shopping centers, cinemas, and other entertainment uses. Page 2 of an April 6th memo from the city. Do those sound familiar? Because they should. Those were the changes that were proposed under Measure A. None of those changes were ever defined under travel recreation. And most importantly, on February 23rd, those changes were voted down on the Lagoon 48 acres by the voters under Measure A. Fortunately, Corey Schumacher again came through. She organized a group of informed citizens to speak at last week's Coastal Commission hearing and expose the city's deception. The commissioners agreed, and they excluded the 48 acres and the Encina power plant from the changes. The 48 acres on the lagoon remain as travel recreation, the land use designation before Measure A. The most disheartening part of the last Wednesday's Coastal Commission meeting is that you, Mayor Hall, Assistant City Manager Gary Barbiero, the City Planning Director, and the planning staff were in the audience when the commissioners asked very specific questions about what was in visitor commercial versus travel recreation. And not a single one of you, not a single one of my city representatives had the backbone to volunteer honest answers to the Coastal Commission's questions. Every single one of you sat there in silence. The voters spoke loudly and clearly when voting down the proposed mega mall under Measure A, and to date, the city has all but ignored our vote. These deceptive tactics are not representative of the Carlsbad I raised my children in, and they're not the Carlsbad that I and my fellow voters will stand for. We deserve better. Thank you.
And again, I would like to sit down with you and whoever else you would be like to have there, so we make sure we're all talking in the same terminology.
That would be fine.
Okay.
I have an April 6th memo that was sent to Kevin Crawford and Gary Barbiero that explained it all very clearly. It's part of the public record.
We understand.
But it's not something that you spoke at the Coastal Commission.
We were there also. Thank you very much. Next.